Okay, so we had San Diego Comic-Con over the weekend, so we'll go through pretty much the Marvel stuff because DC... I don't know, I think DC's kind of given up on trying to make this massive thing when it comes to San Diego Comic-Con. It's probably because they do just kind of get entirely overshadowed by just about everything going on with the Marvel stuff. So we'll run through some of this probably pretty quickly. So we'll go first and foremost with the stuff that they're going to be doing on the Disney Plus. So they've got, that's where you have Winter Soldier and Falcon. Two of the more underdeveloped characters, feels kind of like a skip. Scarlet Witch, Vision, again, also kind of feels like a skip. What If? It's got potential. I mean, Disney's flush with cash. So they could probably actually bring people who played the character and actually do a pretty good What If. Loki. This is Tom Hiddleston with the Tesseract that he gets in Endgame. So I've got Loki traveling throughout space. That sounds awesome. Again, that one with Disney throwing the right amount of money behind it, that one, if you could do like a 1 month or even a free month of Disney Plus, that almost seems like the thing that people are going to definitely gravitate towards. Tom Hiddleston's Loki is an amazing character. Could you watch Loki, we'll say it's 8 episodes, 8 to 10 episodes, could you watch 8 to 10 hours of that character over a weekend? Yeah. Easily. I think there's enough with the shapeshifting and the abilities and the powers that that character is definitely interesting enough that, and charismatic. That could be worth getting the 1 month subscription to Disney Plus. They're doing a Fantastic Four movie. On the bright side, we know it's not going to suck. There's pretty much nothing about it, but we already know it's going to be better than the previous 4 films. And that bar is low. Low. Like a caterpillar with broken legs, Limbo, sort of low. Another version of Blade. This actually be the 3rd live-action version of Blade. And, depending on the direction they go with it, I would definitely say that Blade is not PG-13, Blade is R. You need Blade to be R for the violence, and if they do it just right, you can start working like the Spirit of Vengeance groups. He ties in very well with Doctor Strange. If it works well, that's when you can bring in like Mobius. That's why you can bring in Ghost Rider. Any of the versions of the variations of Ghost Rider. There's so much in the Werewolf at Night. There's a whole pantheon of characters that can work incredibly well with that. Because he has more than just vampires. I mean, that's the majority of them, but there's so much you can do with that. And Blade 1 and Blade 2 were very good films. You still watch them now, especially kind of, but they're still really good films to watch. 3 is horrible, and the TV show wasn't bad, just really low budget, but there's a lot of good stuff there. Captain Marvel 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. 1 and 2 were good. I could see seeing 3, dependent upon how things look in the trailer. If it maintains that we're going to have a goofy family feel with an awesome soundtrack, sign me up, I'll be there for that. The Eternals. Yeah, Salma Hayek, Angelina Jolie, a bunch of other heavy hitters. But again, this is going to be trying to almost do like a Fourth Gods, sort of, or Fourth World. It's going to be trying to do something like that. It's going to be difficult to get through because it's going to be pretty dense. And for me, it's probably a skip. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I'm interested in the Ten Rings aspect. If we get to see an actual Mandarin, you've piqued my interest. Definitely. Black Panther 2, yep. That's a no-brainer right there. The first one was awesome. And having heard they've got ideas of, there's rumors all over the place who's going to be the main villain, but the first one was dang near perfect. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch. Yep. That film, I probably wouldn't see it in 3D because I'd probably throw up. But from the way the first one was and the special effects they used in it, yep. Easy. Sign me up. I'll see that. Now, I say I'll see it in the theater. Now, when you're married and you have a child, anytime it's like, do you want to see this film? You're asking me for a 3-hour commitment, $30, and having someone watch my kid. You gotta be something pretty decent for me actually to go through the process of going through all those steps to go see it. Black Widow. That's gonna be a hard sell. One, you have a female-led spy thriller, effectively. Not a historically well-received genre. You had films like Salt, which did well, not amazing, but did well. Most recently, you had Red Sparrow, which R-rated. That Jennifer Lawrence, which, you know, people were like, oh no, J-Law, she's gonna be awesome in this. And it did respectable. You had Atomic Blonde, the Charlize Theron version of it. There's another one coming out recently, where I think it's like a Russian supermodel-esque character who's also, you know, the super killy assassin. And Scarlett Johansson is not someone whose marquee value alone really drives people to the cinema. This is entirely going to be wrapped upon, you know, how well can Marvel move this, and is there enough... Have we maybe not hit superhero fatigue yet, where people are like, I want to see this film because it's tied into this, that, and the other thing. Seen live-action Taskmaster. Cool character. Major villain. Yeah. I don't get excited about it. Something like the Mandarin, yes. Because Mandarin's a very strong character, a lot of depth to it. And plus, now that they have access to the X-Men, that could be a good place if they want to try to work in a different version of a Revenchi or a Psylocke character or a Lady Mandarin. If they want to try to work in that character into that as well, that could be really interesting. There's a lot of things they could do with Mandarin, the characters that he's touched, to make a very unique presentation of the villain. And now, Thor 4. Love and Thunder. Now this of course got a lot of press because Natalie Portman's going to be wielding Mjolnir. Therefore she will take over the role of Thor. Ironically, she's been Thor twice in the comics. Once in a What If, I think she was Thorness. And most recently she took over because Thor was deemed unworthy, so Jane Foster picked up the hammer. They spent a long time trying to know who's the character who has the hammer. So it was just a female Thor. And then when they revealed it was Jane Foster, who was dealing with other things at the time, you know, it was a unique take on the character. It was written well. The art style was done well, so it was well received. Now, problems with that though. One, Natalie Portman wasn't a big fan of being in the first 2 Thor films. That's why she wasn't in the 3rd Thor film. But I guess since she realized that, hey, this is a great way to make a ton of money, but being a successful franchise, Star Wars, that maybe it would make sense to try to come back at it. And plus, you know, Chris Hemsworth, I think his contract is coming up. But looking back through the way Thor's been in the MCU, in Thor 1 he lost his hammer because of his arrogance. He had his hammer all of Thor 2. Thor 3 hella destroys his hammer. But he still has all of his powers. That's a big portion of the film. So he's had the hammer entirely in 1 film. And a decent amount in 1, but very little in 3. We'll look at the Avengers films. He has it in 1, has it in 2. He doesn't have it in Endgame, that's why a large portion of it was him making Stormbreaker, because he didn't have Mjolnir. And he technically wields it in Endgame because of timey-wimey. So they've established that him being Thor was tied to the hammer in the first film. And in the third film, and then in Avengers 3 and 4, Morris also defined too that he does not need Mjolnir to be Thor. They've actually separated. Wielding the hammer gives you the power of Thor, because Thor Odinson is Thor. Now, if this happens, he goes off with Guardians of the Galaxies, and they move him to as Guardians of the Galaxies. Okay. If they find a way to remake Mjolnir, which might be hard to do, since I believe it, well, since the majority of Asgard got destroyed by Surtur, and his hammer was destroyed by a god, that they had to go through the process of flying out into space, finding the dwarf to build a brand new hammer. Okay? Proving that he's unworthy. You don't need the hammer to be Thor. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So that one... Thor's been underwhelming as a character in the... especially when it comes to standalone films. So, having Natalie Portman now try to helm a film, a lot of it by herself? I don't know. This doesn't seem like something that I'm like, alright, yeah, I'm going to spend, well, that's going to be in a couple years. So, $35 to $40 to try to go see this film. The real cool thing, though, is, of course, with things like Netflix, once the film is done in theaters, you pretty much have to wait like 3 months. So either you have to see it now, or you can just wait a couple of months and then watch it at home at your leisure. Or spend like $15 and get it through Vudu, and then you actually have digital rights to it and you can watch it whenever you want to. Or spend, $30, $40 to go see it in a theater once. Surrounded by people who are looking at their cell phones with their little blinding lights everywhere, who are talking and bringing kids to movies that you shouldn't be bringing kids to. To see a film on a slightly bigger screen, which you probably have at home with a better sound system.